Hello, bonjour. I'm Andrew Mosker, President and CEO of National Music Center, and this is the NMC Amplifier podcast. Hello, we have another special NMC Amplifier live episode today that we recently recorded with a live audience in the National Music Center's theater at Studio Bell. For me, it was a very surreal experience. After many years of planning and discussion and all sorts of stops and starts, we finally unveiled the biggest exhibition that we have done in National Music Center's history with the legendary guitarist, songwriter, performer, producer, mentor, and collector, Randy Bachman. Later that evening, we recorded this episode of NMC Amplifier live in front of a sold-out audience at National Music Center. It was such a blast to be on stage with him. He shared so many stories from his lifetime with the Guess Who, Bachman Turner Overdrive, to some of his more personal and memorable experiences from years of playing, collecting, even learning how to play the guitar throughout his entire lifetime. We had a ton of fun. I think one of the things that really struck me the most was when he would demonstrate some of these guitars and the songs that he wrote on them, and suddenly the audience would start to sing along. It was a really, really memorable occasion for everybody that was there. This exhibition, Randy Bachman, Every Guitar Tells a Story, is on until later this year. You can check it out at Studio Bell, home of the National Music Center, if you happen to be in the Calgary area. So stay tuned as we bring you NMC Amplifier live with Randy Bachman from Studio Bell, home of the National Music Center, from right here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
I think one of my favorites of all time maybe is She's Come Undone.
Amazing.
It's just a whole bunch of words that hardly rhyme.
It's a beautiful song.
And it's a bunch of jazz chords that Lenny Breau taught me that I learned from a jazz book. And Bob Dylan said the word, "She came undone," in a song of this, so I wrote the whole song with that.
That's amazing. Let's give it up for Randy Bachman. So we have lots of things to talk about tonight. We've got guitars on the stage from Randy's collection. I've got some questions. We have some time. You're going to see the exhibition afterwards. Randy's going to do most of the talking. I'm just going to kind of facilitate the conversation, and Randy's going to demonstrate some of the guitars from his collection. And if we have time, there will be some questions from the audience. But only if we have time. So if you're thinking of a question, start thinking more of a question. If you put your hand up, hopefully you'll be able to, we'll have some time to answer it. So Randy, look at this amazing guitar you have in your hand. But before we get to that, there's a guitar upstairs that was your first guitar. Tell us about the guitar and how it inspired you and what was
this one or that
guitar?
one?
The one upstairs. We'll get to this one in a second.
Well, I played violin growing up, and when I was 14, I found out I was playing violin by ear, and I couldn't play with the Winnipeg Junior School Symphony, which is where my teacher wanted me to play. And I went to an audition with the symphony and flunked it because I couldn't read the music they put in front of me, which was Chopin or something. And I got home from the audition, and I said to my mother, "That's it, I'm never playing violin again." I was humiliated. 85 kids were laughing at me because I couldn't find my place on the sheet music. And so I never played violin again. That was on a Saturday. The next day, the Sunday, I saw Elvis on television. And I said, "What is that?" My mother had a sister who was 10 years younger than her, and her sister was really into this. This little black and white TV was on with Elvis Presley, and I'd never heard that name before, which is a very strange name the first time you hear it. And the bottom of the screen was blacked out, so you couldn't see him shaking and gyrating. And everybody was screaming in the audience. I said, "What is that?" "Well, that's called rock and roll. That's called Elvis Presley. That's called the guitar." And I said, "I want to do that. How do I get a guitar?" Well, my parents had the wonderful Simpson Sears catalog that as kids used to read through it. And there was a toy section, a lingerie section that all the guys loved.
A home, you could buy houses from catalogs.
And then, so I bought a guitar that was $34, a harmony guitar. Learned to play Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, Wake Up Little Susie, Bye Bye Love, all the early rock and roll songs, and dropped it at a friend's birthday party, and the front cracked. You can still see the crack up there. It's never been repaired. So I just took the piece that fell out, stuck it back in. It's in there. So I needed a new guitar, so I got an electric one from the same catalog, and then that got by the wayside. But my dream was to get an orange Gretsch like this that I'd seen Dwayne Eddy playing on American Bandstand. I didn't know it was orange because Bandstand then was black and white. All TV was black and white. And Eddie Cochran had played the same guitar, and Chet Atkins. And then there was no guitar stores when I was growing up. There was a music store that had maybe 8 pianos, 8 organs, flutes, saxophones, tubas, everything, and they sold sheet music a lot. And when a guitar came in, it was a big deal. And this place called Winnipeg Piano got in 2 orange guitars at the same time. One had these pickups, black pickups, the arm, the other one had gold pickups. They changed halfway through the year in 1957. So I'd go look at the window, and they wouldn't let me in to play it because they didn't have any money. And the other guy in the other window looking at the other one was Neil Young. And
Heard of him.
We both came back about 2 months later. We had saved up enough money. I bought this one. Neil bought the other one. He still has his. You can see him playing it with Buffalo Springfield. If you Google American Bandstand for what it's worth, they're on there doing that song. And I had mine. I learned to play on it. My first guitar mentor was Lenny Bro, who came to Calgary for many years, a great guitar player. And he taught me how to play the...
Yeah, little Merle Travis.
Merle Travis, Chet Atkins, and then Dwayne Eddy going... Whoa, a guitar going... Real twangy. And then my first lick on it was... was shaken all over, and that became my guitar. I learned to play on it. I wrote Laughing, These Eyes, Undone, American Woman, No Time. It's on all those records. I later played it on Taking Care of Business. That guitar is that whole record, and it was stolen from my hotel room in 1977 in Toronto.
And before we get to that, because that's an amazing story, you touched on so many things. Now, we're in Western Canada. You're from Winnipeg. What was Winnipeg like in the 1960s growing up? I've heard you describe it as like the Liverpool of Canada, and almost in terms of its music. What was it like growing up there?
Anybody here from Winnipeg? Okay.
I knew it. I know
it's in the middle of Manitoba, which is in the middle of Canada, which is in the middle of North America. It's also in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing near Winnipeg. Regina is that way, about 300 miles. Thunder Bay's that way, 300. Minneapolis is 400 miles south. Winnipeg's in the middle of nowhere. But fortunately, it's in the top of the Great Plains. And the Great Plains to me was AM radio in the 50s and 60s. We would go to bed at night and listen to WLS Chicago, New Orleans, listen to the radio on AM radio. And I would go to Neil Young and say, go past 21, there's one little tick, and you'll get Stan the Record Man in Shreveport, Louisiana, and hear all the blues, because you never played blues in Winnipeg. It was kind of a country rock town. And so that was a great influence on us. And then Winnipeg became like Liverpool in the 60s. There was 150 bands all working in the little town of Winnipeg. The reason was the drinking age then was 21. So we couldn't go play the drinking place because we were all 17 and 18, so we couldn't get into nightclubs. So when there was a high school dance, everybody in their 20s would come to the high school dance, because that's where I was playing with the Guess Who, Neil Young was playing with the Squires, Burton Cummings was playing with the Devrons, and Fred Turner was playing with the Rockin' Devils. So our high school dances wouldn't have a couple hundred kids. They'd have 12 and 1,400 kids, all older, who all watched American Bandstand and danced like the kids on Bandstand. And Winnipeg was just a thriving musical place. And because of the weather, and I've said it in the song Prairie Town, you stay inside and rock and roll. So when you're a kid, you grow up playing hockey. You figure, this is insane. There's no indoor rinks then. It was like 30, 40 below. And as you get to be 13 or 14, discover guitar, you go, we don't need to play hockey, we should start a band, stay in the basement, stay inside and rock and roll. And that's where everything happened in Winnipeg. And then we play all the high schools, all the community centers, all the bar mitzvahs, all the socials. We played every 4 or 5, 6 times a week for maybe $4 or $5, and you each get $1. It was a big deal. And it's funny, those guys, Neil Young, Burton Cummings, myself and Fred Turner, we're still rocking and rolling, we're still playing. We're the 4 horsemen, they call us, who rode out of Winnipeg, and we're still riding around the world playing guitars.
That's awesome. You know, woo! All right, great. There's something to be said about winter in Canada. It just breeds creativity. It's fantastic. Now, this guitar, you touched on it, and then I stopped you. So you bought that guitar at Winnipeg. at Winnipeg Piano. There was only a couple of them on the wall, and it really opened up, you know, so many different opportunities musically. You know, you mentioned Laughing, you mentioned Undone, you mentioned all of these great iconic Canadian songs that you wrote with Burton, some that you wrote on your own with the Guess Who. Now, what happened to this guitar? Let's talk about its journey. You were just about to get into it.
It was stolen from the hotel room at the Holiday Inn in Toronto. There was no internet then. I called OPP and the Mounties and said, my guitar's been stolen. We went up and down Yonge Street in Toronto because that's where all the pawn shops were. Nobody could find the guitar. And I never found it for 45 years. I then was on a quest, and everybody knew I was looking for a Gretsch guitar. And when I'm doing a gig, they would come to the gig and say, well, our uncle has a Gretsch guitar. Do you want a Gretsch guitar? It's 25 bucks or 50 bucks or something. So I would buy it and take it home, and it was never this guitar. And I ended up with 6, and then 12, and then 100, and then 300, more. 350.
More.
Midlife crisis there. And realized this is a lot of fun collecting these things, because the one that I paid $250 for a few years later was $2,500, because bands were starting to use them. When the Traveling Wilburys came out with Roy Orbison, Jeff Lynne, Bob Dylan, who else? Roy Orbison, on and on, Tom Petty, and they wanted to have their article in Rolling Stone, Time and Newsweek. They didn't want to go with Fender or Gibson guitars that all looked the same. They went to Norman's Rare Guitars, and one guy got an orange Gretsch, a brown Gretsch, a silver Sparkle Jet, a green one, and their pictures were in Rolling Stone, Time, Newsweek, and then they did their video for MTV, and everybody wanted Gretsch guitars. So you added another zero to what I had paid for the guitars to that, just because of that demand. And in the COVID shutdown, had no gigs to play, everything was shut down. We thought it was going to last 2 weeks, it was over 2 years. My son and I started to do a thing called Friday Night Train Wreck. We didn't know what to do. We thought it would be like Wayne's World, that would be worse than Wayne's World. And I said, here's a really crazy idea. You pick 5 songs that you know that you've played, and I'll pick 5 that I've played. We might have heard them on the radio, but we've never played them before. And to sit around in somebody's room or rec room and play songs, it's one thing. To have a camera on you on YouTube and being filming it and sending it to the world, it's another thing. So we did one, and it was terrible. We made a lot of mistakes, and the email we got was fantastic. People loved seeing us, professional musicians, making mistakes. Because all you hear on the radio is perfect songs. You get to sing it 20, 30 times. You pick the best lines and put them all together. It's like cutting and pasting a letter. And the sound, everything's perfect. Everything's computerized now. Tel and I just did a tour for a whole month of Ontario where we made mistakes every night, and people loved it. We had a box when you came in, drop in a request. We pulled names out of the box and tried to play songs we had never dreamed of playing, like Hello Dolly, like Louis Armstrong, Hello Dolly, trying to play it. And people loved it to see us struggling that way. And on one of the YouTubes,
they were good.
At the side, when you're doing a live YouTube, down the side is a little black column, and people can write comments and saying, bad hair day, nice pants, buddy, lousy song. And one of them said, I think I found your dad's Gretsch.
Amazing.
This came from a guy. So Tal contacted the guy. His name was William Long. He lived in White Rock. He had been shut down, like all of us, for years, and was in his basement. And he knew somebody had stolen my Gretsch. He thought it was a wristwatch. He didn't even know it was a guitar. So he Googled Gretsch and found out it was a guitar. Then he Googled my Gretsch, and you can see this guitar in the video of Looking Out for Number One I did with BTO. And so he took me with this guitar, and there's a little blemish on this guitar right there. It's a knot in the wood, and that's kind of its fingerprint. So he took a picture of this guitar, then he Googled every orange guitar sold on the internet in the last 10 or 15 years. And he watched every video, and he found one that looked like mine, and he froze the picture, and he sent it to me, and it was this one. It was a guy named Takashi in Tokyo. He does not speak English. He's Tokyo's Brian Setzer. He does rockabilly, and he sings phonetically all the Stray Cat songs. And I look at this video, and I go, wow, that's my guitar. And I'm in tears, because I have not seen this guitar for 45 years. It's like your family dog you grew up with gets run over by a truck, right? And you miss your dog, you miss Skippy. And somebody knocks on your door 20 years later and goes, I've got Skippy's grandson called Tippy. It looks the same. And you go, wow, I've got Skippy back. So suddenly I get this guitar is offered back to me. And then he says the word but. But is an international word. It's like the F word. Everybody in every language and country knows what but means. And I say, okay, what's the but? He said, but I must have its replacement. I must have a puppy from the same litter. I must have a guitar from 1957 with no repairs, no mods. It must be original. So this is my caveat. I say, okay, I'll do it. I make one phone call to Loveland Guitars, Gary and Loveland Guitars in Ohio. And he says, I've got 4 of those guitars. Let me check them out. He sent me one. It's 2 serial numbers off of mine, off of this one. And we call Takeshi back with another Zoom. Show him the guitar. He goes, I will trade you the guitar. I said, send it to me. I'll send you this one. He said, I'm not putting this on an airplane. This is all with Coco translating, my daughter-in-law. And he says, come to Japan. Well, you couldn't go to Japan. Couldn't leave Canada for 2 years. Thank you, Trudeau. Couldn't get on an airplane. And finally, I got a call from Ian Mackay. And he said, I'm the Canadian ambassador to Japan. I'm a kid from Penticton, but I'm the ambassador in Japan. I know you're trying to trade your guitar. You can't come to Japan without a work permit. Do you want to come as a guest of me, of the Canadian government? I'll get Takeshi. We've got the Oscar Peterson Theater here at the Tokyo Embassy. And you can do the exchange there. We'll film the whole thing. So this is being filmed for a Netflix documentary now. And you do it on Canada Day. So, wow, cool. Air Canada flies us there, free. The head of Air Canada calls it. We love this story, right? It's like, because every day we're getting up for 2 years and it's bad news, another shooting, another mask, you can't open here, you can't go visit your parents, everybody's sick, everything's going. And this was good news every single day. People doing random acts of kindness, wanting to help me with this guitar that magically showed up. And so we go and do it there. And when I got there, I said, I want to meet Takeshi and see my guitar. And they said, you can't do it. Not until you're walking on stage at Canada. It's got to be like, you can't meet the bride before the wedding. You know that thing? We want your face and your body language when you walk on stage at the Oscar Peterson Theater. When Takeshi's playing Taking Care of Business, and you come out with a sister guitar, and you tap him, and you give a brother hug, and you give him you get your guitar back, and you finish the song. So we did that. I still don't know what it looks like. They're editing the film now. They're getting it ready for TIF in Toronto, the Toronto International Film Festival, and it'll be coming out. But the night it was done, Canada Day, we broke or froze the internet. 80 internet servers around the world went down because hundreds of million people are following the story of this guitar. It's been translated into 22 languages all over the world, and this has become, next to Brian May's Super Red guitar, this is like the most talked about rare guitar in the world. And here it is here.
Here it is. All right. Woo, woo, woo. Now there's what an amazing story. To give it a little bit of National Music Center perspective, we're a collecting organization, and there's items like these. We have many different types of items in our collection, and a lot of them have interesting stories, either the collectors or the travels that these instruments have taken over their lifespan. Now, this particular story that you just heard from Randy has some National Music Center, roots in terms of why this place exists in the first place. In about when you lost this guitar in about 1976, you started collecting. Mm-hmm. And there was a void in you. There was a void.
A hole in my heart.
There was a hole in my heart.
And my head.
And your head.
And my wallet.
And your wallet. Yeah. And then suddenly, and we've met a lot of collectors here at National Music Center, they're a special breed.
And my marriage.
Yeah, they're a special breed. Once you start collecting, it becomes this runaway train. And so in 1976, you lose this guitar, then suddenly, to fill this hole, you start collecting and you start amassing instruments. Many Gretsches and many other instruments. Many of those instruments you'll see up in the exhibition a little bit later tonight. The story of the Gretsch collection, though, was one that got my attention in about 2007, 2008. How many Gretsch guitars, after you had lost 6120, how many Gretsch guitars did you acquire? This is before the Fred Gretsch Museum. To sort of fill that hole, Randy, how many?
350.
There you go, 350. So this sort of lost part.
My house looked like the display here.
Yeah, upstairs.
But with 5 times as many guitars.
Amazing.
Every time one of my kids would get married and leave the house or go to college, I'd go, another room. I can fill this room and put all the guitars on the wall.
Yeah, collectors. Yeah, amazing. Amazing people, collectors, they just are. So I caught this story. We had decided to build the National Music Center here in saving the King Eddie and building the NMC around it, and it was in its early days. And we had created this vision that Canada needed a home for its icon stories and its national music stories just in general, because it didn't have one. It didn't have a place where you could see these items and learn about them. And I caught this story that Randy Bachman's Gretsch guitar collection is going to the Fred Gretsch Museum in Savannah, Georgia. And I was kind of shocked by that. I was like, oh my God, this collection shouldn't be going anywhere. It should be staying here. This is Randy Bachman's collection. So it became a bit of a rallying cry for the creation of the NMC. And then, eventually Randy and I and his team got together, and another instrument ended up here, which is up in the exhibit as well. But I just wanted to share that story because I think there's a lot of different stories about why we want to preserve our history here in Canada, our music history, because it's international in its quality and its scope, and it needs a home, a place where these beautiful stories can be cared for and shared for future generations. And so I wanted to share that because even though those 350 Gretsch guitars are now in the US, I believe now they're at the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. And at least there are some items that still remain here that have a very strong connection to Canada's music, and here's one of those pieces. So the void that you had, and now that has since been repaired and healed, what are some of the other items that you started to attract you to collecting? Some of them are on stage here. This one was a real catalyst.
Well, the guitar is a very intimate instrument. Okay, you can't put your arms around your piano.
No.
Or your drums.
You try,
but when you have a guitar, you hold it against you. It feels your heartbeat. It feels your breathing. It becomes part of you. And after a while, when I was learning to play, I would fall asleep with this on my chest. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and play it. And you're learning to play in the dark, which is great, because when you're playing for people, you can't look at the neck of the guitar, you got to look out. So you learn to play in the dark, you learn to look up and play, you learn your way around the guitar neck. And it was just very important for me to do that. And when I sold all my Gretsches to Fred Gretsch, which are now in the Gretsch Museum in Savannah, Georgia, and a lot of them are in Nashville in the Country Music Hall of Fame, I wanted to collect something else. I had a passion for collecting nice, beautiful things. So a lot of guys collect cars. If you think I took up a lot of rooms in a house with guitars, you can imagine collecting cars, you need a bunch of garages. And for Christmas one year, I got a German archtop guitar. And I picked that up. It was very light and it was really beautiful. I played it. It was amazing. And then I saw pictures of David Bowie playing an acoustic guitar that had lightning bolt holes on, rather than F-holes like this, had lightning bolt F-holes. What is that guitar? What's called the Hoyer guitar. I've never seen it. The top was all scalloped, kind of like this. And so you search for one of these guitars, you find there's only one in the world, and David Bowie has it. It's on his advertising for Aladdin Sane for his album. And then I saw another German art. There's a band called Roxette. They had a promotion video out, and the guy Per Jessel there was playing another Hohner guitar. And there's several guys that made them in Germany, families. And I started looking at German archtop guitars. I had a daughter who had studied German in high school, and so she would go on German eBay and translate these things for me and help me buy these guitars. And it became another passion, because as I would get each guitar, and as you see them upstairs, you realize each one is its own Picasso, each one is its own Rembrandt. It's made by a father and his sons and maybe his children. They made it right after the war or during the war. They had to hide out in an attic and make these and then sell it to get food to feed the family. I heard a story of one family selling one of the guitars, and this is true. They were behind the Iron Curtain. They couldn't put their name on the guitar because they would get arrested. So they put their name inside the guitar on the top in pencil. And to see who made the guitar, you got to get a dentist's mirror in that hole and shine a flashlight in there. With the dentist's mirror, you look at the top and you see the guy's initials on the guitar. You know it's his guitar. So this family sold the guitar, and guess what they bought with the money? A banana. The kids were teenagers. They had never seen or eaten a banana. They buy a banana, they cut it into 6 pieces, they all have a piece and go, this is amazing. We love capitalism. And an apple, do you know what I mean? Like, so these people were starving. So they would make these guitars and sell them and get a little bit of extra money to feed their family. And so I learned the history of this. So there was 3 or 4 German families where I have pictures of them hiding in an attic or in the basement or up in the barn, and they're carving the tops of the guitars by hand. The thing about the guitars, there's a universal thing on them. They all have the same tuners and the same pickups, because Schaller was a company that existed, German company, through the war, and they made all the hardware for the guitar. So they all have the same hardware, but it was the wood that came from the Black Forest and other places like that these guys got and cured in the sunshine and the wind in little sheds and everything. And most of this stuff that they've got, they had to go buy on the black market from somebody selling ivory or abalone or pearl or something like that, and they would scrounge and smuggle it in and make the guitar and then sell the guitar secretly. And then a guy like me would go, wow, and I would buy it. And it's wonderful to have them all here and share it with people, because when I walked in, I was stunned to see that. I haven't seen that since they were all in my house.
Yeah, I mean, when you saw them, I think you were probably surprised, because you had
and the ones that the guys who bought them at the auction, I looked at every one today. I signed. I didn't want to sell them. But you open the case, I was like, wow.
What were some of the deciding factors, but particularly those German archtop guitars? What were some of your factors in deciding what to acquire and why to acquire that one? No, just to acquire them when you were acquiring them. The beauty, the aesthetic beauty.
The individuality of them and the history that went in them was very fascinating. I had collected Gretsch guitars that maybe over 30 years. Like just buying them once in a while. People would bring them to my gigs, and so I would collect them all. And then when Fred Gretsch bought them, I realized I quadrupled my money, my investment. What a great investment to have this, that you can play them and make records with the music and hang them on the wall, and you can sell it later for 4 or 5 or 6 times what you paid for it. So I figured, well, this is a really great investment because it's physical. It's like investing in real estate. That's it. It's a piece of land. Invest in the stock market. It's a piece of paper. Somebody shreds the paper, and it's like, what happened to my money? It's gone. So it was a great investment. So I started to buy these German archtop guitars, seeing how rare they were. Because if you find an orange Gretsch, there's thousands of these. There's thousands of every one of these guitars made by Fender or Gibson. You go to the German guitars, there's 1 or 2 of each, and that's it. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I mean, wait till you get a chance to look at them upstairs after the show tonight. Now, there's lots of, we're going to switch gears here and talk about the guitars that you played making a lot of these amazing records and writing a lot of these songs and performing and recording. Now, we've talked about the magic guitar. So the magic guitar in and of itself is truly magical. The story, the songs that you've written with this, the times that you've played live with it. There's some other guitars on stage that we wanted to sample as well and chat about. So let's just chat just about, how many guitar collectors or guitarists in the audience tonight? There's probably a lot of guitar heads here, right?
Hello, buddies.
Yeah, when guitarists and guitarists get together, we can kind of geek out a lot, talk about.
If you have more than one guitar, you're a collector.
You are. So now it's I really want to spend a little bit of time talking about guitars, the music you've written and recorded, and looking at and then hearing some different sounds from these various instruments on stage. So you've played the magic guitar a little bit, 6120. Jason's here. He's going to help out just with being a tech and a roadie for a few minutes. So this guitar, let's just kind of go through a bit of a list of the songs that you've recorded with 6120. Guess Who, BTO, and then hear a bit of it, and then.
Okay, I started with. Shake It Over. Next was.
Oh yeah. Name that tune. Anybody want to sing?
These eyes cry every night
for you.
And then I came with.
Very good. Well done. Laughing.
I should laugh, but I cry because your love passed me by. You took me by surprise. Didn't realize that you were laughing. And then,
well done, then, audience. My favorite.
She's come undone. She didn't know what she was headed for. When I found what she was headed for, it was too late.
Beautiful.
And then
audience participation, thank you very much.
American Woman.
I was waiting for the audience to jump in here, but it didn't happen.
And then,
so that's 4 amazing, iconic classic songs. There we go. Right? You all know this song, right? I think so.
They get up in the morning from taking care of business.
Amazing. How's that, right? Hey? Living history in the works here. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. These are the kinds of things that we can do here at the National Music Center, kind of bring history to life and icons telling these incredible stories, Randy. That's just amazing. Like, you know how rare this is when you have an artist who's created this music with the instruments that they've created in our time that we're living, to be able to experience that. It's very, very rare.
This guitar speaks, by the way.
What does it speak?
Here's a true story Takeshi told me. Takeshi is very famous in Japan. He's a multimillionaire. He writes songs for the people who win Japan's Got Talent. So he's writing for the boy band there, but he's writing in Japanese. He's got a lot of money. He buys vintage guitars. He goes to a vintage guitar store to buy a white Strat like Jimi Hendrix or a red SG like Eric Clapton, because in Japan they all love power trios. He doesn't like any of the guitars. He tries about 12 guitars. And as he's leaving, he's walking out, and over the door is an orange guitar. He has no intent of buying an orange guitar, but as he's going out, he hears a voice whisper to him. And he looks around, there's nobody there. He goes back into the room, he looks up, he looks at the guitar. And so Japan people are very, Japanese are very superstitious and very religious and listen to spirits, and they have different gods they pray to at different times of the day. And it's very nice being there. They're all very rigid and all very upstanding citizens, I guess you'd call it. And he stands in front of the guitar, and he said the guitar spoke to him and said, "Take me home, I will make great music with you. I exist in many homes and hearts around the world." And he goes to the guy, "Can I buy the guitar?" So he buys the guitar. He takes it home, he writes a bunch of hit songs. When we went to Japan, I said, "Take us and the film crew back to the store you bought it from, the Japan Vintage, find out where he got it." So they're interviewing the guy, and I'm giving you the second hand because it's all in Japanese. The guy had gone to the Dallas Guitar Show in Dallas, Texas, the Vintage Guitar Show, about 12 years before this, to buy white Strats like Hendrix and red SGs like Eric Clapton, and he bought 50 guitars. When the container arrived in Japan, in Tokyo, there was 51 cases in there. He opened the 51st case. It was a white case with this guitar in it. He called back to Dallas and said, "There's an extra guitar in here. Where did it come from?" They said, "We have no idea." He didn't buy the guitar. It ended up being in the case on the wall. Takeshi bought it. I got it back now. Somehow it found me and came back to me. It's quite a miraculous story. It really is.
Amazing story.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment to give us the highest rating you can on your podcast app. Or if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. National Music Center is a registered charity with a mission to amplify the love, sharing, and understanding of music, and we rely on donor support to achieve this mission. If you like this show or anything else the National Music Center is doing, please consider leaving a donation by following the link in the description.
So we're going to move a few years into the mid-1970s and talk about Bachman Turner Overdrive and some of the guitars that you played during those recordings. They are, by the way, upstairs in the exhibit. So we have some other examples from your collection that are here. Again, for the guitar fans in the audience, but also just for the general music fans and fans of yours, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the different sounds between Gretsch guitars, Gibson guitars, and Fender guitars, because those are like the icons of rock and roll music. So why don't we bring Jason out here? Let's hear it for Jason Talkin, our fantastic tech here. Also, by the way, from the north end of Winnipeg, same rough area as Randy, so I know these two have bonded quite a bit over the years. And so we're going to talk about this black Strat, Fender Stratocaster here. So tell us a little bit about this another iconic guitar that you have here in your collection. Tell us about the Strat.
This is an all-original 1958 Stratocaster, all original. Eric Clapton had one he called Blackie. I think it sold for $850,000.
Something like that.
It was bought by George Johns in Winnipeg, who was in a band called the Phantoms, and he was a really good friend of mine. And I bought it from him many years later, and it's like one of the sounds of rock and roll. And it's also, so that's the sound of BTO, that's Let It Ride. And you ain't seen nothing yet? And also, Jimi Hendrix. Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand?
So when you made the, let's hear it. Let's hear it. In December we did the Andy Kim Christmas here, and Randy was one of the guests. And the Bachman Turner Overdrive Fender Stratocaster, sort of a cream-colored white, off-white one, was here on stage, and you hadn't picked up that guitar in how many years?
Oh, some of them I haven't picked up at all.
That one in particular. That one you haven't picked, but that one in particular.
This one, I haven't played this in like 25 years.
So that BTO guitar was here on stage for the Andy Kim Christmas. Randy hadn't played it in years, and he opened it up, plugged it in, and played the opening riff to Just Let It Ride, and it really sounded like the record. Yeah. And it was a sound check, and everybody that was in the audience just kind of stopped, and the band that was on stage stopped. How did it feel to play that Stratocaster again and play those BTO
Well, you
chords
forget
on 'em?
the magic in a guitar, because each one has its own personality. And as I would buy each one, I would communicate with it. I'd hug it. I'd hold it next to me. And we would write a song together, which justified me paying the money to buy it. They all paid for themselves, okay?
Justify it to lots of people, including
and
yourself.
to plug this in and to play this beginning, which is my world big famous.
Yeah. Everybody's got to sing along, okay? You ready?
That's like a signature.
I was trying to count the audience in. Goodbye, bye, bye. Okay.
Oh, do you want to keep going?
Can't believe I'm up here singing with Randy Bachman. Like,
you can see the morning, but I can see the light. Try, 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 let it ride.
Yeah.
While you've been out running, I've been waiting half the night. Try, 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 let it ride. And goodbye, I lied. Don't cry, would you let it ride? And would you cry if I told you that I lied? And would you say goodbye, or would you let it ride? And when I was writing that song is from Anton Dvorak's Piano Concerto in D.
I want you to tell this story because, again, for the classical music fans in the audience, in the exhibit upstairs, if any of you are, wannabe guitar players or playing, Randy's recorded, as I said earlier, many hours of many video clips for the exhibition upstairs, and you can sit and take guitar lessons with Randy upstairs in the exhibit, and they're way better than anything you're ever going to find on YouTube. Way better, way better. So he will teach you how to play that riff. And as I was watching it last night, I was like, wow, I didn't remember that you had recorded the inspiration for the song. and I want Randy to tell the story because it was amazing how music sort of transcends different genres and styles. And that riff was inspired by
Anton Dvorak.
Anton Dvorak.
Piano Concerto in D, which is a very boring thing, about 40 minutes long.
Except
I was playing this album. The first side was nothing. The second side was nothing. But it got to the end of the second side, and I heard this.
There it is. Can you hear it?
You put guitar chords to it.
You ripped off Anton Dvorak.
Yeah, but
you were inspired by Anton Dvorak.
And when I was showing that riff to Fred Turner, that we were in the dressing room at Mardi Gras playing with the Doobie Brothers, and I'm showing Fred this. And the Doobie Brothers going right.
Amazing. You're
Anton Dvorak is alive and well in rock and roll.
All right. You're getting a music. This is like one of the best music classes you could ever take. You know, this is way better than singing scales, doing solfege, ear training. Like, this is one of the best music lessons you will ever have. You'll never forget it. So just in the interest of time, we've got a lot. We could spend all night here. We could spend hours here. So much to talk about. So many amazing stories. Randy, you know, professional storyteller, broadcaster, musician, guitar player, collector, and the list goes on. How about a Les Paul, though? Like,
sure.
We've touched on the Stratocaster, one of the icons of rock and roll and electric guitars. And then, of course, there is the Gibson Les Paul. I said a minute ago when we opened up the NMC and Randy played the first sound, we repatriated the 1959 Gibson Les Paul that was used, was called the American Woodland Guitar, which is, you'll see upstairs. So this is obviously a cousin of that Les Paul. So tell us about the Les Paul and how it fits into your music.
Do you want my Les Paul story?
Of course.
Okay.
We want all your stories, Randy.
Growing up, the radio was incredible because the Beatles were on the air, Elvis, and so was Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Patti Page. Everybody was on the hit parade. There was one giant hit parade. There wasn't a country and then a rock and a rap and everything. It was all one. And Les Paul had 3 songs in the top 20 in Winnipeg: How High the Moon, Via Con Dios, and something else. And he was playing in Winnipeg at a place called the Rancho Don Carlos on Pembina Highway, outgoing as if you're going to the States.
Did you see him live? You see Les Paul live?
So I'm about 15. He's got 3 songs in the top 10. And the DJ's saying, Les Paul and Mary Ford are playing tonight at the Rancho Don Carlos. So of course I don't tell my parents. I'm leaving school and getting on the bus at 4 o'clock to go from one side of Winnipeg to the other. On the way to the border, it's like 30 miles. And I take my Les Paul album with me and I go to the Rancho Don Carlos. I get there about 10 to 5 in the evening. And I go to the front door and say, I want to get into Les Paul. And the guy says, how old are you? And I say, I'm 15. He says, you can't get in. It's a nightclub. You've got to be 21 to get in. You've got to be with your parents and order dinner. But my parents don't even know I'm here. He says, you can't get in. So I go in front. I'm sitting at the bus stop waiting to take the bus home. A Cadillac pulls up. The window rolls down and says, hi, kid. What are you doing here? And it's Les Paul. Beside him is Mary Ford. And in the back seat is their son, Gene, who played drums with them. And he said, I said, oh, would you sign my album? And he said, are you coming to the show? I said, I can't get in. He said, I'll get you in, carry in my guitar. So I carried in his guitar, and he spoke to the guy who owned the Rancho Don Carlos, and he said, I can't let this kid out there. If the liquor inspector's there, I'll lose my license. So I was told to stand in the kitchen, where everybody's going by with trays of food. It had swinging doors with big round windows, so you wouldn't get smashed by the door. So I'm standing by the door. Right beside me are 4 or 5 big tape recorders that Les Paul recorded on. He had a thing on his guitar called the pulverizer that would stop and start and record, that would start and stop the tape machines, and he would record the rhythm to How High the Moon and play it back, and he'd play lead, and Mary Ford would sing, and then she'd sing her own harmony. They walked around to the tables. They had microphones that came out of their guitars, so they walked to the tables like mariachi guys, him and Mary Ford. And so I got to watch the back of Les Paul for an hour and a half. I heard the tape recorders turning on and shutting off. And when it was all done, he came backstage, he was wiping his head with a napkin. He said, here, hold this guitar. And I hold this guitar. And it was all done. I thanked him a lot. And I said, would you show me a riff? And he showed me the riff in How High the Moon, which is just something like this. Somewhere there's over and over and over. And that became one of Jeff Beck's favorite licks that he played all the time. And fast forward like, I don't know, 30 years. I'm opening with Van Halen, I'm with BTO, and we're playing in New Jersey at the Coliseum. Les Paul comes to see Eddie, and he comes over to me in the dressing room, and he goes, "Do I know you, kid?" And I said, "Rancho Don Carlos." And he goes, "Yeah, can you still play the riff?" And I say, "Yeah." And he said, "Come on tomorrow night and play it." I went to the Iridium Club where he played every Monday and played with him on stage, and it was quite amazing.
Amazing.
And then he said, "Let's do one of your songs," and he played Taking Care of Business with me, and I just got the video of that a few days ago. A friend of mine had it.
If you haven't heard that How High the Moon recording by Les Paul, there's one that's played like 300 beats. I mean, it's super fast, like high, fast tempo. Like it's just
and this
amazing
guitar is called
virtuosic guitar.
This guitar is called the Fretless Wonder because the frets are filed down. So you can do this without having a fret bump in the way you can. You can play everywhere. There's no frets. You can see them, but they're not there. So I had lost this guitar on the road, and a kid came to me about 4 years ago, and he said, "I've got your Les Paul." I said, "What do you mean you have my Les Paul? The one you played at American Woman?" I said, "No, you don't. I've got that. It's in Calgary." He said, "The black one." I said, "My black Les Paul?" He said, "Yeah, my name's Marina. My name is my dad was Marinas Vandertoot." I said, "Oh, that was a band called Noah." And I left the guitar with him, so when I traveled to Toronto, I wouldn't have to take a guitar in the airplane because I was helping them write an album and producing an album. And he said, "I have the guitar." I said, do you play it? He said, "I can't play it. It has no frets." I said, "I want to get it back." He said, "Okay," so I got it back, and here it is. There's a picture of me playing it at Rainbow Stage in Winnipeg in 1968, because when I got this, my guitar neck had broken. I was trying to get it fixed by someone, and somebody I bought this guitar as a standby guitar. And so like it's a very cool Keith Richards kind of black Les Paul, Black Beauty, and they all had 3 pickups, so this is very special. It only had 2. So if you're playing fingerstyle, your fingers are in the middle. When there's a pickup there, you hit the pickup, you can't play. So a lot of guys would order the 3 pickup guitar with just 2 pickups with the middle one missing. Even on a Strat, I lower the middle pickup so you can claw pick with your hand.
Amazing. So let's. You want to play any Guess Who or BTO on that to give us a little sample?
With this guitar, I played like 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel ride. It's also playing on Hey You. The intro is the Strat. That Strat, then it goes, "Hey you, you say you want to change." It gets really loud. This is when this guitar comes in. So a lot of the BTO stuff was these Strat.
Amazing. Keep going.
A lot of BTO was the Stratocaster with the light rhythm, like you ain't seen nothing yet. And it gets to the chorus, in comes that, and it goes, "But baby, you just ain't seen nothing yet." The heavy part came in, and this went out and went back to the jangly rhythm, and it gave us a great sound on the radio of heavy and light, because there was no heavy rock at the time, and we snuck it in the middle of these pop songs in the chorus, and then everybody started to do that.
So like you were cutting tracks with the Les Paul.
We tricked the radio by playing a light guitar in the verses and the intro. By the time you get to the chorus and then comes the power hook, they don't care. The phone's ringing off the hook saying, "Play that song again."
Amazing. Yeah. And using both guitars, the Les Paul and the Strat, on the same recordings at
for different texture, because then there was no foot pedals. You had to have a Gretsch, a Fender, a Les Paul, maybe a Rickenbacker 12-string. If you wanted to sound like the Byrds or the Beatles, you got the 12-string guitar, and there was no other. You want to sound like Chuck Berry, you got a big body Gibson. You want to sound like Eric Clapton, you got an SG. Hendrix, you got a white Strat, or any Strat, but the white was the Hendrix thing.
Amazing. So again, when you go up to the exhibition a little bit later, you can take a lesson from Randy. You know, he's flipping through a lot of different really amazing techniques for the musicians and the guitar players in the room.
The lessons on YouTube are wrong. I've looked at them. The guy shows you taking care of business like this. It should be. Put an extra note in there. Instead of just doing. It's that extra note that when you start that, the audience gets it right away.
See, this is the Amplifier Podcast and Music School. taught by the icons of this country. So what else do we have on stage that you'd like to try? We've tried a Les Paul, we've tried the 6120, we've tried a Strat. Is there anything else?
That, Silvertone.
Yeah, let's try that Silvertone. That will be the last guitar we will hear tonight, and then we will...
Where are you?
Right here. He's right here.
Playing hide and seek.
I see. Isn't this fun? Yeah? All right.
Wow, does that sound good?
Tell us about this guitar. Hank Marvin, Lenny Bro, any of your early influences?
This on the top says Roy Smeck. If you grew up reading comic books, in the back of your Superman comic book was like, get the Roy Smeck guitar method. Send in 6 popsicle wrappers, right? And so Roy Smeck was like a famous guitar player, and he made this guitar that had this, what they call like a starburst there, but these pickups are DeArmond gold foil pickups that have an incredible sound that no other, and this guitar is hollow.
Where was
Not
this?
like a Les Paul,
where was
that's
it
solid.
made? Where was
so
it
the
made?
hollow guitar gives a resonance to the back of these pickups. And I first saw this guitar played by Stevie Winwood in the Spencer Davis group going. Well, I feel so good. Oh, give me some lovin'. Give me some love. Give me some love. You're gonna give me some lovin'. So when I saw that with this guitar, I had to get one. But boy, does it sound good. Also, them played it in Gloria.
Where was this guitar made? Do you know where it was made?
Pardon me?
Where was the guitar made? Where was it from?
Sears.
Exactly.
It's a harmony guitar.
You got it. See, you don't need
this was the top end harmony, though. With these pickups, compared to my little acoustic that was $34, then my next one was kind of the Black Dan Electro. That was, I think, $79. This was like $230. But it's in great shape, and they're very rare. They didn't make a lot. They made them, but to have Roy Smeck on it, even though it's gone, you can still see it. It was a Roy Smeck harmony guitar. Amazing. With the cool companion with this would be the Roy Smeck guitar book that teaches you how to play You Are My Sunshine. Such rocking hits as You Are My Sunshine.
Just wanted to touch on, just because we're talking about so many things at once here, your early influences, you know, Hank Marvin and of course Lenny Bro. You know, if you know anything about guitars and you've studied guitar and you're into guitars, I mean, I first heard Lenny Bro from a bass player friend of mine, a guy named Reg Kellen, who gave me a tape, and I'd never heard Lenny Bro, and the first cut on it was the Tune Up song by Miles Davis, and it was just Lenny Bro tuning up his guitar.
I can do that.
And so he was a big influence on you, Lenny was, and so was Hank Marvin. Yeah, that's it, exactly.
They're called harmonics.
Amazing.
Right? Yeah.
Well, what was it about Lenny Bro and Hank specifically that you were drawn to in terms of their styles early on?
Well, I was about 15 when I saw Elvis on TV, and then I heard that this band had moved to town called the Caravan. They played for CKY Radio, and every Saturday they would play live on the radio at noon from 11:30 to 12:30 at a car lot, because they're out there selling cars, you know, Mustangs and Cougars and stuff like that. So I'd be listening to the radio. My mother'd have the radio on every Saturday, and they would do like country music like Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, Johnny Cash, Ray Price, and then a little bit of country rock. And in the middle, they would take a break and say, now we're going to let Junior play. And out of my radio came the most amazing guitar. First song I heard was... Caravan. Duke Ellington's song. And it was amazing. And then 2 weeks later, they're playing near my house in West Kelowna. I get on my bicycle, I ride there, I'm waiting to see the band called Junior. They leave the stage at noon, and they say, here's Junior. And he comes and he plays the song, and look, it's one guy. He's this little guy, He was 16, I was 15. And he's playing all these parts. And I look, and he's playing the bass with his thumb. Chords in the middle, and
mini orchestra.
Playing, and I go, wow, what is that? So he could tell I was a guitar player. I'm standing in front of him like drooling. And I really, this is exactly what's behind Elvis. That's all right, mama. That's all right. That's all right. Same thing that Scotty Moore's playing. I got to learn to play that if I want to be like Elvis. And so I said to him, like, where do you live? He said, we don't live anywhere. We live in a trailer. Because they were a caravan. They played all the barn dances and everything around Winnipeg. And I saw him a few weeks later. He said, we finally got a house. And it was across the street from two girlfriends of mine who were twins. And it was too far for me to go home in Winnipeg for lunch. Can you imagine 40 below and you got to walk to school? It's like about a mile there and back for lunchtime. So my mother made a deal with Mrs. Schmalinger, who had these two twin daughters, that I'd go have lunch with her and her daughter. They'd go back to school. I would skip the street and go across the street. Lenny Bro lived across the street from them. And I would watch him learning the Chet Atkins, Merle Travis, Howard Roberts, Barney Kessel stuff, and just became his buddy. He had no friends. He just moved into town. So he and I were like really good friends. And I learned a vocabulary from him. Like if you went to study with a French family in Quebec or France, you would learn French right away because that's all they speak. So all I did with Lenny Bro is my report card came, my mother said, something's wrong with your report card, you've missed 82 afternoons.
Studying music.
And I flunked that year, but it was the greatest year of my life because I learned this vocabulary of guitar from Lenny Bro that I still draw from today.
Wow, amazing.
And I wrote She's Come Undone and songs with those jazz chords and stuff.
Check out, if you get a chance, check out Lenny Bro's music. Do it. Really, really inspiring. Just at the tail end of things, a couple of quick questions, and I do want to go to one or two questions from the audience, but someone sent me a question to ask you, and I thought, this is a really great question. Of all the songs that you've written, which one or two mean the most to you?
The one I write tomorrow.
Are you always a forward-looking type of writer, and you just I've done that.
I write a song every day, and whether anyone gets to hear it or not, it's just in me, and I write them down. And somebody says, "Do you have a song for so and so?" Sure. I go through my list and pull out a song and pitch it. And when nobody records it, and I get a chance to record, I record them myself. And my greatest trick is, if there's a hit song, I try to write the follow-up song to it. That if they called me and said, write us a follow-up song, I'd have given them that song, but they never call me. But I've written a song, waiting for Celine Dion to call, right? I've got a song. And so I write these songs. Some of them are ballads, some of them are jazzy, some of them are rock and roll, but I just kind of write them. But I think one of my favorites of all time maybe is She's Come Undone.
Yeah. Great, amazing.
It's just a whole bunch of words that hardly rhyme.
It's a beautiful song.
And it's a bunch of jazz chords that Lenny Bro taught me that I learned from a jazz book. And Bob Dylan said the word, "She came undone," in a song of his, so I wrote the whole song with that.
That's amazing. No, so glad we had a chance to hear part of that tonight. And one other question that also was shared with me, out of all the guitars you've collected, and you've had over 1,000, do you have, as a forward-thinking, just related to songwriting, as a forward thinker as you are, do you have a dream guitar? Is there a dream guitar out there that you can see in your head that hasn't been made yet that you wish somebody would make?
Funny you should ask. Do you know this is happening?
Well, maybe. Oh. I don't know. I'm just here having a conversation with you. I mean,
a guy came to me about 10 years ago and said, I'll make you any guitar you want. I said, hundreds of guys tell me that. You're just going to get a Stratocaster body and glue a neck on it. I can do that myself. No, I'll make you any guitar you want. I said, I have got hundreds. I've had thousands of guitars. I wouldn't mind a guitar that looked like an F5 mandolin, like Homer and Jethro played, with a beautiful scroll there and the scroll headstock. And he said, well, how do I do that? I said, get a mandolin and make it bigger.
Copy it.
Trace it, make it 6 inches bigger. I want a big guitar that is beautiful as a mandolin with a violin finish.
That would be beautiful.
And he started sending me pictures, and he was making one. And then I never heard from him again. Then I got a little note saying, I went through a divorce and a bankruptcy, and my landlord seized everything. You'll never see your guitar again. And that was disappointing. I had some pictures of it. 2 weeks ago, Larry LeBlanc, who you might know, he's a press agent for the Guess Who way back in the 60s,
Larry,
sends me a picture. And he's gone to a karate class, a black belt karate class. And his dojo is shut down, so he goes to a new one. And he meets a guy there, and they're saying, what do you do? What do you do? And the guy says, I make guitars. And Larry Blanc says, oh, I know Randy Bachman. And the guy says, wait a minute, I made him a guitar. Larry LeBlanc sends me an email 2 weeks ago that says, here's my new guitar. It sends me a picture of this F5 half made. And I go, Larry, I designed this guitar with this guy. You got it? And he said, no, I'm just joking with you, but he wants to build you another one. So now he's building me a big F5 that's going to be a guitar. I just got pictures of it 2 hours ago.
Fantastic.
I'll show you
so
later.
there is a dream guitar out there for Randy Bachman. Well, we look forward to
There's
seeing
always a dream guitar.
hopefully we can see that and hear it at a follow-up to this
My
this
motto
podcast.
is there's never enough.
Never enough, exactly. Okay, so we're just about out of time, but I do want to go to the audience because we've got a full house here. I have so many fans here, Randy. And maybe one or two quick questions. I know we're a little bit over time right now. I hope that's okay, just for a couple minutes. And then we'll go to like one question, maybe two, some closing comments, and then you'll have some time to go see the exhibition upstairs. So where's our first question from? Right over here.
Randy, you told the story, I'm not sure where I heard about when Van Morrison arrived in America. And tell the story, if you could, please.
The Guess Who had gone to England, and it was a disastrous trip. We were going to be the new Beatles. We weren't. But we were lucky enough to record a couple of songs there. And one got played on the radio in Canada, in Windsor, Detroit. We got a call to be on Upbeat, which was a show out of Cleveland, Ohio. And you could get it in Canada. It was kind of like American Bandstand. And so we got asked to go down there and play on the show. And they would tape like 3 shows in an afternoon and play them every Saturday. So Burton Cummings and I are down there, and we go by a dressing room, and we hear somebody crying. And we look in, and there's this little person. And it's Van Morrison. He's about 5'2", 5'3". And we're big 6 foot, we're 6 foot meat and potato pierogi Winnipeg guys. This is a little guy who eats potatoes in Ireland, right? So we go in the room, and Mr. Morrison, he says, my life has ended. I've got the number, Brown Eyed Girl was #1. I've got the #1 record. I don't have a cent. I'm here to do a television show. My guitar got lost in luggage. I don't have my clothes. I've got to go on TV. I've got to do Brown Eyed Girl. I have nothing. I said, take my guitar, you can have it. I had an endorsement with Yamaha. I gave him a Yamaha guitar. Burton said, I'll give you the shirt off my back. Burton took off his shirt, gave it to Van Morrison. He did the show. We've got a film of this, him wearing Burton's shirt, which we call the polka dot shirt. It was white with black spots on it, and playing my Yamaha guitar. And he did Brown Eyed Girl. Amazing. It was phenomenal.
Thank you. Woo! All right. And what happened to the guitar? Did you get it back, or did Van keep it?
No, I said, on tour, you can keep the guitar. I'm going back to Winnipeg. I'll get another.
Never saw it again.
Yamaha's been very good to me. They're really phenomenal. There's some Yamaha guitars here that they custom made for me that are just
so that guitar is
the best made. Yeah,
it's still out there somewhere. That guitar you gave Van.
Van's still playing it.
There you go. So it's still out there. If anybody sees it, let us know. And one last question, just up here, and then we're going to have to wrap.
A while ago, apparently Eric Clapton was asked who the best guitarist was in the world, or how did it feel like to be the best guitarist? And he said, it's not me, it was, and he identified Prince. Who would you classify as the best guitarist?
It depends.
A good question.
No, I'm certainly not the best. And one thing Lenny Bro taught me, because everybody wanted lessons from Lenny Bro, and Lenny Bro stuttered. He was didn't want to talk to anybody. I had a brother who stuttered, who I wrote You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet for, and stuttered my way to that #1 hit. So I spoke with Lenny Bro, and the way you speak with these people is you don't interrupt them and try to finish their sentence. You just calm down, and then they relax, and they speak normally to you. And so everybody wanted lessons from Lenny Bro and couldn't get them. So they came to me because I was learning all this stuff from Lenny. I'm showing up on stage. I'm playing my Gretsch guitar. I'm playing all these great riffs and licks. And I said, you know, it's really funny. Kids are coming to me for guitar lessons. One kid came, he couldn't even hold the guitar. I told him he'll never play guitar. He came back 6 months later. He could play Born to Be Wild better than me. I couldn't figure out the little part. And he said, I'll tell you something. There'll always be a faster gunslinger, if you're Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp or Billy the Kid, who will come to town. A young kid will come and he'll kill you. Meaning there'll always be a better guitar player. And he said to me, write good songs. Amazing. So I became a better than average guitar player, but I concentrated on copying Jagger and Richards, Lennon McCartney, Brian Wilson. Bacharach and David, all the great songwriting teams, Bryan Adams, Jim Valley, same kind of thing. We all did the same thing. I'm not really famous for guitar playing. Maybe American Woman, but it's the songs that have endured. And I saw Sting on television a couple of months ago, and somebody said to him all the songs he'd written for the Police and his own solo stuff, and he said, if I ask you, and I ask any of you, where were you 10 years ago today? You have no idea. Where were you 15 years ago today? You have no idea. What were you doing the first time you heard Message in a Bottle or These Eyes? Oh, I was in the backseat of a car making out with a chick after prom. The music makes you remember that, like smelling your mother's pierogies or something. Coming out of a house, you want to go in and go, Baba, you're still alive. Give me some food, you know, that kind of thing.
The power of music.
The power
right
there's a woman here who's a music therapist.
Music therapist.
Same thing. Music is therapy around the world. When I play my songs now, it's like 18, 20 hit songs in a night. The people are just taken back, and so am I. When I do She's Undone or American Woman, Burton Cummings is still 19. When I'm on stage with him, we're both like in the 70s now. He's still 19, I'm still 21. It takes me back, it takes him back, and it takes the audience back. And there's a wonderful thing about music. Everybody in the world, even if you're in Japan like Takeshi, you can sing Taking Care of Business, phonetically.
I think so many of us are so grateful for the songs that you've written, the songs you've written with Burton. And I read somewhere only very recently that you were very inspired to become a songwriter because you saw Gordon Lightfoot play at a club in Montreal, I think it was. And just in light of Gord's passing very recently, a real a master class songwriter. Truly a Canadian icon, a pillar who really had influence around the world and told Canada's story in a way that really nobody else could through song. And and Gord had an impact on you and Burton and inspired you to become a songwriter. Is that correct?
Yeah, CBC had me on the radio last week when Gordon passed away. And I said, 1967 was a big year for Canada with like Centennial
Expo.
And guess who got a gig in Montreal? So we went to Montreal, and Gordon Lightfoot was playing there. We went to see him because we'd heard all about him. And so Bert and I sat there mesmerized for about 75 minutes. And he played song after song after song. He introduced the song, and it was Pussy Willows and Cattails and Leaving on a Jet Plane and Great Canadian Railroad Trilogy. And we went, wow, if this guy from Aurelia can write these songs, we can write songs.
Amazing.
So we went and started writing songs. We became a great songwriting partnership. And Gordon became a very good friend of ours. We liked him so much, we wrote a song called Lightfoot that's on the Wheatfield Soul album that you can Google now. It's about us seeing him coming out on stage with John Stockfish bass guitar and Red Shea playing guitar, bass and guitar. And Gordon was a very good friend. And he was Canada's Bob Dylan, but he was the Bob Dylan you could understand.
Got it. Well,
I couldn't understand Bob Dylan.
Amazing. I think we all have a piece of Gordon Lightfoot in us, and rest in peace, Gord. Thank you for the songs. And Randy, thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing. It really, really has. Really, really has. I have a few, look at this, a standing ovation. Amazing. Thank you. I have a few people. You can please stand it. It's okay. I really, really have to thank quite a few people before you leave. But the standing ovation is very heartfelt, Randy.
Thank you all.
On behalf of all of us, really. I wanted to give a shout out to all the volunteers. National Music Center is a charity. We have a lot of volunteers on our board here tonight that help us out with all of our programs. Our staff, the exhibitions team that built the exhibition that you're about to see, please go see that. It's up on the 5th floor. Every guitar tells a story. Jesse Moffitt's our Senior Director of Collections and Exhibition. He and his team have led what I think is the best exhibition we have developed here internally to celebrate Randy's legacy as a collector and an artist. And our whole team, our production team here tonight. And Jason talking back here. Jason, I want you to come out here. Jason's made something for Randy. So
thanks.
These two from Winnipeg, these two Winnipeggers, hit it off.
Thanks for the help.
For not only tonight taking care of the guitars, and they've obviously worked together here making records and just looking after this collection. Jason is one of the amazing technicians in this organization that keeps the historic collections of the National Music Center alive so that artists like Randy and young artists and artists in between their careers can come here and record. And he made something for Randy, which Randy needs, more stuff for his collection. So I want you to accept this on behalf of this amazing technician here who made it for you. Like? And it's a guitar pedal. And
2 loops. So you can add it to your own pedals. Oh. It's an A loop and a B loop.
On behalf of Jason
It'll
Tonkin,
go in my stuff room on my pedal board.
Custom made for Randy Bachman by the NMC tech team. It's cool. A new pedal for Randy Bachman's collection. There you go, Randy. Jason, thanks, man. You got it. And I do encourage all of you as well, after you've seen the show, the gift shop is still open. If you'd like to pick up a t-shirt, you can do that and support the National Music Center. And again, Randy, we can't thank you enough on behalf of all your fans here tonight and those that aren't here. And on behalf of myself, it's been a great honor to chat with you this evening here on the Amplifier podcast at National Music Center. We'll see you again. Bonne soirée. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. That's the show for today, but before I go, I wanted to thank my guests for agreeing to be on the podcast and in front of a live audience. It was a night to remember. I also want to thank Randy's entire team, along with everyone who helped out, not only with the show, but with assembling this amazing exhibition to celebrate Randy's career of over 50 years as an artist and a collector, including our amazing team here at NMC. And again, if you can make it to Calgary to see Randy Bachman Every Guitar Tells a Story here at Studio Bell, home of the National Music Center, it's on until at least October 2023. But who knows? Maybe we'll be able to showcase it a little longer. Thank you for listening to the National Music Center's podcast, NMC Amplifier, with me, Andrew Mosker. We have lots of other great content online for free, including live performances, videos, articles, podcasts, interviews with artists, and more. Head over to amplify.nmc.ca and check it out. National Music Center is a registered charity with a mission to amplify the love, sharing, and understanding of music, and we rely on donor support to achieve this mission. If you like the show or anything else NMC is doing, please consider leaving us a donation. NMC Amplifier is recorded on Treaty 7 in Mohkinstsis, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, at Studio Bell, home of the National Music Center. To learn more about National Music Center, go to studiobell.ca. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, au revoir.